Hey guys, welcome back to the shack. Today I want to do a video which is going to address an issue that a lot of you guys have reached out to me about, and that is where to get materials to do projects for laser engraving. And one of the things that I do is I use a local hardware store, which is not a national chain, so a lot of you guys don't have the opportunity to go to that store and buy those materials. So to help everybody out and do some testing for you guys, save you a little trouble, I have went down to Lowe's, which we have a Lowe's here about 30 miles from my house. And I went through there, picked up some supplies, basically went down their hobby aisle and found anything that I thought you guys might want to engrave or use to do projects with, and put it in a cart, brought it home, and I've been doing testing for a couple of days off and on, and I'm going to share the results with you and show you some wood products that would be really good for laser engraving that you can get from a Lowe's near you. So if that's something you're into, stick around guys, and we're going to be back and go over the results. All right, so what I've done with all these different materials is I've went through and came up with power test grids for each material. I tried to run them multiple times just to get, make sure I was getting consistency throughout the material, and also did an engrave test. So I'm going to try to present these to you and show them to you, and that way if you want to go back and freeze the video, get the settings, you'll be able to do so. I'll also be dropping links down below to Lowe's website, which will take you directly to this material. And the cool thing about Lowe's, guys, is if you go to their website and you look up this material and you put in your local store, it will actually tell you whether or not they have it in stock, and if so, generally speaking, how much they have. So if you want to run out and get some of this, I'll be providing you with settings that work for me, and I'm using a 20 watt machine for this. So if you're using a 10 watt or if you're using a 30 watt, of course you're going to have to do your own settings for sure. I'm using the Algo Laser 20 watt for all these tests. It's kind of 20 watts, kind of middle of the pack, and I felt like that was a good machine to use to get broad results. But I do recommend that once you get the material, you can use my settings as a start off point, but do your own test grid and make sure those settings work for your machine, your humidity, everything about your setup is different than mine. So to get those best settings, be sure to do a test grid. And if you don't know how to do a test grid, then I'll try to drop a link down below, kind of walk you through the steps of using Lightburn to do a test grid so that you can get your own great settings. So to start off with, y'all know I use a lot of Luan. I get mine locally, but I did find some at Lowe's, guys. And this is what I've got right here, and I'm going to show you the results. Try to get that to where maybe you could pause the video there and see those settings. But it done really well. It was a little harder than what I typically get here at home. But I was able with this Luan, and like I said, I'll be dropping the links down below, guys. So if you want to know exactly what it is, I'm not going to go into all the details. Just go down below and look for the Luan. Click that link. It'll take you to Lowe's website, and you can see all the information you need to see there. But it done really well. Got good range of engraving out of the material. Speeds all the way up to 300. With the Algo laser, I was getting some pretty good browning of the wood, which would be good if you're not going for a deep engrave, if you're just going for marking. And I was actually getting a recessed engrave all the way up to about 157. So about 150 millimeters a second at 100% output. I'm getting a recessed engrave if that's what you're going for. Cutting speeds, it will cut this stuff up to 7, and I even got some cuts all the way up into 8. But I would probably recommend, maybe 6 millimeters a second, just to be sure you don't get any snags. Through my testing, I did have a few spots that kind of wanted to stick around, so I had to go back and hit them with a knife on some of the stuff that I cut out. So even 5 might not be a bad thing with a 20 watt to go ahead and slow that down. But the quality of the projects with this particular material, guys, and I'll show you here. I cut out a couple of my little Christmas decorations. These are the skates, and I will also have a link to my Etsy shop if you want this file, guys. It's out there. But cut these out, and it done a really good job. Like I said, no real holds. I did have one or two little spots right here, like I said, that held, but I think I ran like 7 millimeters a second, so I probably should have geared that down just a little. But definitely doable for Christmas ornaments, you know, boxes, that kind of thing. It is Luan. I think it's around 5.2 millimeters is what the little sticker on the back says that it's, yeah, 5.2 millimeters is what the sticker says. And let me get my calibers and we'll double check that. I don't think it's quite 5.2 myself, but it could be. Yeah, it's coming out at 4.6. So 4.6 millimeter. That's close to the 4.7 that I usually get. So I think that's a good thickness for doing a lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing with your machine. So we'll lay this one over here to the side, but that's going to be the Luan. And like I said, links will be down below, guys, if you need those or just want those. I'm going to go through the plywoods first. I did find some solid wood also at Lowe's that worked out pretty well. But guys, this is going to be what they call blonde wood. It's a plywood that it's got something on the back of it that's a little stubborn, so you're definitely going to want to slow your speeds down on this stuff. But as far as a high contrast engrave, it does a really good job. It burns nice and dark, and there's the settings that I got on that and the little grid. So as you can see, at 100% power or 100% power at 50 speed, really dark. I mean, black dark. All the way up to 300, I'm still getting some marking. I would say probably for a recessed deep burn, you're looking at 120 millimeters a second at 100% output. For just a marking, you could run all the way up to 246 and have some really good color to the engrave. Speed-wise, run about the same as the Luan. I would say probably, just to be safe, 5 millimeters a second with this stuff. Like I said, I did have some problems with some little snags in the back, but nothing I couldn't work through. If you're doing a real complex design that would make it hard to go back and touch it up if needed, you might even want to slow down to like 4 millimeters a second with the 20 watt. But it does a pretty good job on ornaments and so forth. I think that's probably one of those places that this would shine. I did a couple of ornaments, and as you can see, they're really white in color, and the engrave's really dark. So high contrast engraving with this stuff, it does a really good job. I tried cutting some little small pieces out just to see how it would hold up. It's fairly flexible. It doesn't break real easy, but these are some really thin pieces that would normally break real easy. So that tough surface that's on the back that was hard for me to get through, I think it kind of plays a role in helping make this stuff a little more resilient from breaking. So it might actually be a material that you would want to use on intricate stuff like this, because it does seem to have a little more rigidity as far as the thinner woods that would normally break. Now, my air assist wasn't doing a great job on this one, and they got a little sooted up, but altogether, it cuts really well, cuts fairly consistent, except for those little pieces on the back from time to time. All right, guys, so the last plywood that I picked up, and this is probably one of the more popular plywoods for cabinetry and stuff like that. This is going to be the birch. And the birch plywood that I found at Lowe's, like I said, I was pretty impressed. I don't use a whole lot of birch because my local shop here in town doesn't have it. But using this material, the sturdiness of it, it had really good consistency in the cut. As you can see, the speeds are pretty consistent all the way across the little sheet. I'm going to say, as with these other 1/4 inch plywoods, probably around 5 millimeters a second is the safe cutting area. With the right combination of air assist, you could probably go a little faster, and I'm in the process of upgrading the algo to shop air, and maybe go back and redo some testing to see what a difference it makes. But this stuff is really sturdy. It's not real flexible, so it would also make for some really good ornaments and that type of thing. I'm getting really good dark black all the way down here at 100% output, 50 speed, and getting really good color The color does kind of fade kind of quick with this material. So in order to keep that dark color, if you want a recessed burn at dark color, you're gonna have to run it down to about 86 on the speed. But if you're just going for marking, you can actually get a light marking all the way up to 300 millimeters a second with this stuff. And it, like I said, it done a really good job. And the ornaments that I cut out of it, they turned out really, really nice and got nice clean lines and look really well. So, and they're sturdy, so that's a good thing. But so this is going to be the birch plywood. Like I said, all of this stuff, guys, Lowe's, links down below, 2 Lowe's. Those are just reference links. That's not an affiliate link or anything with Lowe's. Those are just to make it easier for you guys to find out if your local store has it or not. So that's the plywoods that I picked up. And guys, there's lots of other materials in these shops like tile and slate and all this. But I wanted to concentrate on sheet goods mostly for this video and thinner hardwoods, because I know that's a lot of what guys want to use with the lasers, and with Christmas coming up and projects coming in, maybe you're looking for that perfect piece of wood to be able to use for that project. And the next batch of materials, and I'm going to start out with the poplar. And the reason is poplar with the sawmill. Poplar is one of the woods that I like to engrave images and stuff like that on. It's a really, I guess you would say, soft wood, but at the same time, I think it's technically classified as a hardwood. But poplar is a really nice material for what we do with lasers, because once it dries, it doesn't really have a tendency to warp or anything like that, from my experience with the sawmill. Once you get that stuff dry, it doesn't matter what kind of moisture it gets around, it's going to hold its form for the most part. So with poplar, as I expected, I got some really nice cuts, and I also got a nice variety of colors all the way up through the power chart. And that's why a lot of times I like working with poplar on images and stuff like that, is because in order to do shading and have that image look realistic and have shades, you have to have a wood that's willing to take that. And so with poplar, you do get a wide variety of shades. So you can go all the way from the dark blacks here, all the way up to the fainter blacks, and then over in here into the grays and the browns. And so that's one of the things that I like about poplar. This material, they market it as 1/4 inch material, and it's actually, if you measure it, it's 6.87 millimeters thick, which is more than adequate for most of your smaller laser jobs. If you're going to make a box or something like that, this would be good to have. This did come, I think it's 6 inches wide is what you get these as. So it's a decent piece of material if you're making shadow boxes, or maybe you're cutting out frames, picture frames or something like that, cutting out picture pieces on the laser, and you're going to engrave them and make a picture frame. This would be a pretty good little material for that. So I did do a couple of projects, or a couple of burns with the, actually I guess I only did one. But I did do an ornament, another one of my skate ornaments with the poplar, and like I said, it turns out really nice. And the wood, one thing too about poplar, guys, is you can stain this stuff as light or as dark as you want to stain it, and it looks good, especially if you go through there and pick out the ones with the cool grain. It makes for some really interesting looking projects if you're planning on staining it anyway. The next piece of material on the list is, I found some pine, and they had some really thin. This is not going to be quite 1/4 inch. This is more like 3/8 of an inch pine material. It measures in at 9.78 millimeters thick. So I did have to, like I said, I run a speed and cut test. And keep in mind, guys, on these thicker materials, these are 4-pass cut tests. This is not a single pass. You can see that it says on the top 4-pass. But I had some pretty good results with it. Now, pine is notorious for what you see right here, guys. You can actually see the grain in the pine and the way that it affects the color of the material. That's something that you're going to have to deal with pine. It's a property of poplar that you don't have a problem with, But, you know, pine has its unique look. It has its uses. This material would be really nice for like slotted boxes and that type of thing, or cutting out ornaments. Some really thick, bulky ornaments that definitely have that custom-made look. The color, typical pine, you know, you can get some really dark colors down here, over here at 50 millimeters a second, 100% power, and it fades kind of quick. But you do have a decent range to work with. But like I said, with pine, the grain is going to affect the color. So even though you pick a color that may be kind of dark, when you hit that grain, it's going to lighten it up. So pine is not one of those that I recommend doing images on. I would stick to just doing more of a graphic type design on pine, but just understand that you will be seeing the grain as you cross it with the design. So another good material. I did made a few ornaments out of it also, and they turned out really nice. These are really thick, bulky, and so if you want to go for that, you know, bulky look, it looks really nice. Got some nice caramelized coloring on the edges. Got that like mahogany honey look on the edges. And pine smells good too, guys. So of all of the materials that I tested, guys, one was my favorite. And it's no surprise that my favorite material that I picked up was some oak, okay? Oak is a very nice material, but it's a little finicky. Some of the problems that you're gonna see with oak as opposed to the poplar and even the pine, oak likes to split. So you're gonna have to be real careful when selecting the pieces when you're at the store, and make sure you don't get one that's got that split or that crack in it. So this oak is, they market it as a 1/4 inch material. It's 6.83 millimeters thick. Now, it's very tough, but for the most part, despite the fact that you would think oak would be harder to cut than say pine or whatever, I actually had some really good results with the algo, and you can also see the grain in that oak right there. That's one of the things that you're gonna have to watch for also. Got some really good cut speeds. You're looking at, I'm gonna say safely 7 millimeters a second at the 4 passes. It's cutting it. Oak gives you a really, really nice dark burn, but like I said, same as with the pine, if you get a piece that's got a lot of heavy grain, you're gonna notice some shading going on with the grain. So you're gonna need to accommodate for that. If you can pick out a piece kind of like this that has straight grain, no real dominant grain in there, you got less chances of that happening. But oak is just a good all-around wood. Like I said, other than the splitting. So when you're picking your wood up, guys, make sure to look at the ends and look for any splits, because if there's a split, there's a good chance it's gonna run further than just what you can see in the material. When you cut it, it's just gonna fall apart. That's what happened here. It had a split in the end of it and it fell off. But I can still use this for small stuff. Now, I did do a few projects, and guys, I like oak, so I got carried away with the projects with the oak. So I'll show them all to you. Christmas ornament, like I said, 1/4 inch thick, nice size. It looks custom made, cool, kind of a robust ornament. I think that would be something that somebody would want. Made myself a coaster, which I haven't finished any of this. I took it off the laser, hit it with a little sandpaper, and laid it to the side. So I've got my coaster there. On that one, I made another coaster, kind of a locally themed thing here with Lake Mitchell, Alabama on it. And you can see the detail that oak does take a lot of detail when you burn it, once you find those right settings. But you will have a little differentiation with the grain from time to time. It's hard to see on this one because the grain's not real heavy. If you look on the back, it's more or less a straight grain. So I got lucky on that part. But a lot of that, guys, has to do with selecting the correct piece of wood for what you're trying to accomplish. I did a little angel cutout ornament also. The fine corners and stuff on here. One thing that you do want to look for also when you're using hardwood, especially solid wood like this, if you have these sharp pointed shapes like that, make sure the grain runs the length of the shape and not across it. If the grain runs across these little tiny pieces like this, they have a tendency to break. So you want the grain, when you place the material, you want the grain running long ways with the small pieces. Now, sometimes you may have a design that you can't do that, but in a situation like this, that is definitely advisable to make sure you don't have any little pieces chip off. Did a badge for, you know, just to see, and it turned out pretty well. A lot of real fine detail, as you can see in that, and I thought that looked pretty cool. And of course, I made me a flag. And the flag turned out really great, guys. Like I said, oak does a really good job of taking engraving and making it nice and dark. It contrasts real well with the wood. It does pick up a lot of detail. Because oak is so hard and the fibers are small as they are, it takes detail. You can look at the tiny little corners on the ends of that burn right there. It does a good job of taking the detail from those engraves, especially with graphics like this. With photos, you're gonna see the grain a little bit more, but with stuff like this, guys, I love oak. All right, guys, I hope the video kind of helps you out with selecting material for jobs. With everything coming up, Christmas and Thanksgiving, everything coming up. Maybe you can come up with some pretty cool projects and just run down to your local Lowe's, grab you a few pieces of this material to try out. Like I said, you can use my settings as kind of a jump off point, but to get the best results, guys, as always, do a test grid. There will be links down below for some of the designs that I have, as well as a link to each one of these materials on Lowe's website so you can check availability in your area. And I'll try to keep coming up with more content like this if it's something you're interested in. So drop me a comment down below and let me know, was this helpful? Is this information that you think you needed? Or should I just stick with the project videos and leave this stuff alone? But anyway, guys, I'm going to get off my feet. I appreciate you stopping by. And until next time, be safe and have a good day.